Blackvale City, that was vampires, namely the Blood Boss. I had never met him. Hell, he didn't show his face anywhere that I'd ever seen, and I knew very little about him, but he controlled all vampires, and while the streets weren't running red with blood at night, it was the time they tended to roam, and crime was rare, but it did happen. I could see the porch light shining at the house and was just about to climb the steps when I realized there was a sleek black Cadillac in the driveway that didn't belong to anyone I knew. Who could be here at this hour? Something crashed inside and I rushed through the door, worried Mom, Dad, or the foster kids inside were in trouble. "Jace!" Mom shouted from the couch. Her hands were on her lap and tears streaked down her cheeks. Dad was on the ground, his nose bleeding. But what had me frozen in place were the two hulking vampires in the living room. One stood beside Mom and the other hovered over Dad. What's going on here? There were laws in place that vampires couldn't enter someone's home and dominate them for anything unless they had proper documentation from the Blood Boss. "Who are you?" The one who was beside Mom narrowed his eyes. "I'm Jace Harlow, and I live here. Who are you?" "Jace, don't—" A sharp look from the vampire above my dad shut him up. "I'm Emil, this is Petru, and we're here under orders from the Blood Boss." Emil was the one guarding my mother, and he slipped a piece of paper from the pocket of his expensive suit. He walked over to me, and I had to crane my neck to meet his gaze. He had to be over 6'5" or something. His blonde hair was styled in a short cut, his eyes an eerie shade of blue, a cross between white and baby blue. I'd noticed all vampires had odd-colored eyes. It was one way of identifying them. "Take a gander." He held the paper out to me, and I took it, reading every word carefully, hoping I'd find a reason to tell them they had no right to be here. But there was none, and— "You borrowed money from the Blood Boss, Dad?" Petru stepped back when my father tried to stand, but he stayed close. "I had to, Jace. I had no other choice." I read the line that scared me the most. "Failure to pay the agreed-upon amount will result in your punishment being ruled on in front of the Blood Boss and a fair judgment dealt." I looked up, and tendrils of fear licked at my skin. "Dad, this is serious. It says you borrowed over $50,000. "I know, and do you even have it?" I knew he didn't. Money was tight even with what we were given from the government to care for the foster kids. I'd told my parents not to take any more kids in, that we couldn't afford it, but they hated turning away a child in need. "No." His voice was a whisper, and he flinched when Petru grunted. "Emil, is it?" The vampire nodded. "Can I ask what punishment my father will get?" He shrugged. "I'm not the Blood Boss. You'd have to ask him. But the reason there is order in Blackvale is because no one gets to slide by without repercussions for their actions." "But from your experience, what would you say he'd get for it?" Emil spared a glance at Petru before answering. "The reason Michael Harlow borrowed money had to do with the fact that the bank was about to foreclose on his house. It's a noble reason. My guess is he'd likely make him work it off." The bank was going to foreclose on the house? Why didn't anyone tell me? "He already works 2 jobs. If you take him away, the bank will surely take the house. Isn't there another way?" Emil shook his head. "And Harlow could take his place as payment." My mom was a school teacher during the week, and on the weekends she worked at the community center to help children who were struggling in school. She couldn't be away either. "If you take Mom or Dad, they will be even deeper in debt with the bank. The foster kids will have to leave, and I don't have a lot of hope for them in the system, and they'd lose their other jobs. Please, is there any other way?" Emil looked over at my mom, then at my dad. When he met Petru's gaze, it was as if they were having some sort of telepathic conversation, and maybe they were. I didn't know a lot about vampires' abilities. "Are you their son?" Emil turned toward me again. "No," my dad made to run over to me, but Petru stopped him easily. "I am. Why?" "It's not typical, and I've never seen it done, but you could go in your father's place." "Jace, please!" My mom was sobbing, and I heard the pitter-patter of footsteps above me. No doubt the kids were listening and frightened. Michael and Anne were amazing foster parents. If it weren't for them, I'd likely be in a shit situation, and if they left here now, it would be a disaster. I, on the other hand, only worked at the bookstore, and while Sybil needed my help—